The world of Hollywood casting is fascinating, and nowhere is that more evident than in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. For every iconic casting decision, countless others almost landed a role. And who could have altered the MCU's trajectory entirely? But what happens to these stars after being passed over by Marvel? For some, it's the start of even bigger things. For others, it leaves us with a lingering what if. Let's take a deeper look at how these rejections shaped these stars' careers and how they handled being turned away from the biggest film franchise in the world. 1. Tom Hiddleston, finding his place as Loki. Tom Hiddleston's case is a perfect example of how rejection can lead to a better opportunity. Had Hiddleston been cast as Thor, we might not have seen the incredible complexity he brought to the role of Loki. Thor, after all, is a character largely defined by his physicality, strength, and stoic heroism. Loki, on the other hand, is a far more nuanced figure, constantly shifting between villain, anti-hero, and tragic character. Hiddleston's refined theatrical background gave Loki the gravitas and sly charm that helped make him one of Marvel's most beloved villains. In fact, it's hard to imagine the MCU without Loki's cunning and manipulative nature driving much of its early conflicts. After being cast as Loki instead of Thor, Hiddleston quickly established himself as a fan favorite, with his character going from what might have been a one-off villain in the first Thor film to a core figure in the entire Marvel saga, appearing in the Avengers, Thor, Ragnarok, and of course, the Loki series on Disney+. In the end, his rejection from one role opened the door for a far more dynamic and career-defining opportunity. 2. Emily Blunt, missing out on Black Widow but thriving elsewhere. For Emily Blunt, the missed opportunity to become Black Widow might have seemed like a setback at the time, but it hardly slowed her down. Blunt's reason for missing out wasn't a rejection based on talent, but simple scheduling conflicts. When Gulliver's Travels locked her into a contract, she had no choice but to turn down Marvel's offer to play Natasha Romanoff. In the years following this missed role, Blunt went on to prove herself as one of Hollywood's most versatile and reliable leading ladies. She starred in critically acclaimed films like Edge of Tomorrow, Sicario, and A Quiet Place, the latter of which she starred in and was directed by her husband, John Krasinski, another actor on this list. Blunt's career flourished, and while fans still wonder what she could have brought to the role of Black Widow, it's clear that Blunt made the most of her opportunities. She has even hinted that she's still open to joining the MCU in the future, if the right role comes along. 3. Joaquin Phoenix, sticking to his vision. Joaquin Phoenix's decision to walk away from playing Doctor Strange was not about rejection, but a conscious choice that speaks to the actor's deeply selective approach to his career. Phoenix has always been drawn to complex, dark, and character-driven roles, so it wasn't a surprise when he hesitated at the idea of committing to a long-term, multi-film Marvel contract. For Phoenix, the lure of Marvel's huge box office numbers wasn't enough to sway him into a role he wasn't fully comfortable with. He's long been known for his intense method acting and for taking on roles where he has creative freedom. After stepping away from the Marvel deal, Phoenix went on to star in Joker, a film that, much like his performance in it, transcended typical superhero movie tropes. His portrayal of Arthur Fleck won him an Academy Award, proving that his instincts about the types of roles he should pursue were spot on. It's fascinating to think about how different the MCU could have been with Phoenix as Doctor Strange. But in the end, both Phoenix and Marvel seem to have landed in the right places. Cumberbatch's take on Doctor Strange has been a resounding success, while Phoenix's Joker became an Oscar-winning cultural phenomenon. 4. John Krasinski, From almost Captain America to Mr. Fantastic. John Krasinski's almost casting as Captain America is one of the more well-known stories of near MCU roles. While he's joked about how intimidating it was to see Chris Hemsworth as Thor during his Captain America audition, Krasinski's path after missing out on the role has been more than fruitful. At the time of the Captain America auditions, Krasinski was still mostly known for his comedic role as Jim Halpert in The Office. Not landing Captain America may have been a blessing in disguise, as it gave him time to diversify his career beyond comedy. Krasinski eventually found a place in the MCU as Mr. Fantastic in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. While his appearance was brief, it opened the door for him to potentially return as Reed Richards in future projects, especially with Marvel's plan to reboot Fantastic Four. Missing out on Captain America allowed him to grow as an actor and director, notably helming A Quiet Place, which cemented him as a creative force in Hollywood. Krasinski is now poised to be a long-term player in the MCU, and many fans are eager to see him continue as Mr. Fantastic in future films. Bond 5, Sam Rockwell. From almost Iron Man to villainous success. Sam Rockwell's audition for Iron Man is another story of what could have been, but his eventual role as Justin Hammer in Iron Man 2 shows that Marvel knew Rockwell had the charisma and wit to fit into their universe. Though Robert Downey Jr. became the defining face of the MCU, Rockwell's turn as the slimy and opportunistic Justin Hammer was memorable, even if the character hasn't returned yet. Rockwell went on to enjoy significant success in other films, earning an Oscar for his role in 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. Marvel has a history of bringing back characters when fans least expect it, so it wouldn't be shocking if we saw Justin Hammer pop up in a future Marvel project, especially given Rockwell's continued rise in Hollywood. 6. Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Focusing on personal projects. Joseph Gordon-Levitt's near casting as Star-Lord is another example of a star choosing a different direction at a critical juncture. Gordon-Levitt passed on the role, opting instead to take a part in Sin City, A Dame to Kill For, a film that wasn't nearly as successful as Guardians of the Galaxy. However, this decision gave Gordon-Levitt the freedom to explore more personal and diverse projects, including his work as a director and producer. While Gordon-Levitt didn't get to lead a Marvel franchise, Chris Pratt's breakout as Star-Lord showed that sometimes an actor is just meant for a role. Pratt's comedic timing and action star transformation was a perfect fit for the Guardians series. As for Gordon-Levitt, he remains a beloved figure in Hollywood, often opting for indie films and passion projects. His focus on quality over quantity has maintained his credibility as one of the most interesting actors of his generation. 7. Rachel McAdams. Joining Marvel on her own terms. Rachel McAdams turned down the chance to play Pepper Potts, but Marvel wasn't done with her. After her initial pass, McAdams later joined the MCU as Dr. Christine Palmer in Doctor Strange. While it wasn't the lead female role she could have had as Pepper, McAdams still became part of the MCU in a significant way. Her decision to initially pass on Marvel was similar to Joaquin Phoenix's. McAdams has always been selective about her roles, looking for complex characters in films like Spotlight and The Notebook. Though she wasn't a love interest for Iron Man, her eventual casting in Doctor Strange allowed her to contribute to the MCU in a way that aligned with her vision for her career. 8. Jensen Ackles. Sticking to Supernatural. Jensen Ackles' missed chance at playing Hawkeye was largely due to his commitment to Supernatural, the show that defined much of his career. For Ackles, staying loyal to the series that made him a household name ended up being the right move. Supernatural lasted for 15 seasons, with Ackles' character, Dean Winchester, becoming a cultural icon. Ackles has since expressed interest in joining the MCU, and with Marvel always expanding, there's always a possibility we could see him in the future. Given his talent and fan base, it's only a matter of time before Ackles finds his way into a major superhero role, whether in the MCU or elsewhere. 9. Olivia Wilde. From potential Gamora to director's chair. Olivia Wilde was considered for the role of Gamora, but ultimately passed on the opportunity. However, Wilde has shifted her focus in recent years, transitioning from acting to directing. Her directorial debut with Booksmart received widespread acclaim, establishing her as a promising director in Hollywood. Though Wilde could have become part of the MCU's cosmic adventures, her decision to turn down Gamora allowed her to explore different creative paths. With her growing success as a director, it seems Wilde's future lies more behind the camera than in front of it. However, as Marvel continues to recruit top-tier talent, there's always a chance we could see Wilde back in the MCU, perhaps even in a directing role. 10. Matthew McConaughey. Choosing character over franchise. Matthew McConaughey's decision to pass on playing Ego in Guardians of the Galaxy Vol. 2 speaks to his desire for more character-driven roles. Coming off his Oscar win for Dallas Buyers Club, McConaughey was at a career high, and while Marvel's offer was tempting, he opted to pursue projects that allowed him more creative control. Kurt Russell eventually played Ego, and the role suited Russell's legendary status in Hollywood. McConaughey, meanwhile, continued on his path of reconnaissance, starring in films like Interstellar and True Detective. While Marvel fans still speculate on what McConaughey might have brought to the MCU, his decision to focus on other projects has certainly paid off. 11. Pierce Brosnan. Sticking to iconic roles. Pierce Brosnan was rumored to be in talks for the role of Cable in Deadpool 2, but ultimately it went to Josh Brolin. Brosnan's suave and sophisticated demeanor might have brought something different to the gruff, no-nonsense character of Cable, but Brolin's portrayal was perfect for the tone of Deadpool. Brosnan continues to work on a range of projects, but his near casting in the MCU will always remain one of the more intriguing missed opportunities. 12. Jessica Chastain. Holding out for the right superhero role. Jessica Chastain's decision to pass on the Wasp was a deliberate one. Chastain wanted a superhero role where she could be fully involved in the action, not just a supporting character. That decision led her away from the MCU, but eventually into the role of the villainous Vuk in X-Men. Dark Phoenix. While Dark Phoenix didn't perform as well as hoped, it did give Chastain her first taste of the superhero genre. Still, fans continue to speculate that Chastain could join the MCU in the future, possibly in a larger role that allows her to immerse herself in the superhero world fully. Given her track record of picking powerful, complex characters, Chastain's MCU debut could still be one of the most anticipated in the years to come. 13. Timothée Chalamet. Opting for dramatic roles. Finally, we come to Timothée Chalamet, who was nearly cast as Spider-Man. At the time, Chalamet was relatively unknown, and landing the role of Peter Parker could have launched him into the superhero stratosphere. However, Tom Holland's audition nailed the youthful energy and physicality that Marvel was looking for. Since then, Chalamet has become one of his generation's most celebrated young actors, starring in films like Call Me By Your Name, Little Women, and Dune. His choice to focus on dramatic roles rather than the superhero genre has paid off. And while fans may wonder what he could have done with Spider-Man, Chalamet's path seems to be working out just fine. Rejection in Hollywood can often feel like the end of the road. But as we've seen from these 13 actors, sometimes a missed opportunity is just the beginning of something bigger. Whether due to scheduling conflicts, creative differences, or the simple fact that another actor was just a better fit, these stars have all gone on to thrive, even without their shot at Marvel fame. The MCU may be the biggest game in town, but for these actors, the road not taken has often led to success on their own terms. And in the end, that might be the best kind of victory. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe for more fascinating looks at the stories behind Hollywood's biggest casting decisions. In the comments, tell us which of these near castings you think would have been the most interesting, and who do you hope will join the Marvel in the future?